Hey guys, Braxis here, and I'm going to be playing some Universe Sandbox 2. So I have a request that's actually been requested multiple times, but the latest person requested was Far Reaches of Space, who just subscribed to the channel, and thanks for subscribing. Anyways, we just hit 500 subscribers, so thank you guys. I probably have about 3 or 4 uploads tonight. Yeah, it might be 2 or 3 actually, depends if I get around to one of them, but I have some side work to go do tomorrow, but this is going to be a little bit of extra money, and I do plan to order a microphone once I get paid. So, yeah, I'll be able to order, hopefully, that Mod Mic 4.0 that I was talking about. So his request is combine all the dwarf planets together. So let's just go ahead and put our biggest dwarf planet, Pluto, in the center, as it will all likely combine into it. So let's place it as a still object. Okay, so there's Pluto. Now we want to go to our minor objects. Go. Let's just go ahead and place Ceres right here, which will fall right in. So there's Ceres, which, by the way, Pluto is a mass of 1.31 and a radius of 11,000 kilometers, not 11,000, 1,186 kilometers, as you can see there at the bottom. I added Ceres, which was a mass of 9.47 and a radius of 476 kilometers. So let's go ahead and drop in Pallas. The radius is now 1,240, still slightly growing. 1,250. As it's changing in density, it'll actually expand over the time in the game. So it's actually growing slowly. So now it's at 1,255. Now I do believe this game does actually calculate and actually takes into account E equals mc squared. So the conversion of mass to energy when these planets actually collide, because they have such a high force. And yeah, I think it actually loses a little bit of mass from the planets every time it collides. But I don't think it's any significant margin that'll actually affect it. So I don't really want to hit the heart of Pluto, because, well, can't hit Pluto's poor little heart. So let's drop, what is this? Sedna over here on the backside. And there goes Sedna. I'm noticing it doesn't really show the craters too much on Pluto. Okay, so now it is growing to a radius of 13,000 kilometers, which the original radius was 1186. Looks like it's stabilized to about 1305, maybe 1306. So let's go ahead and drop in Shriklo. Much smaller. It's basically an asteroid, so let's just drop it right in. And that barely made it grow. It's at 1306 now. Might go over to 1307. Let's drop in Shoemaker, which is just a tiny asteroid. Plop. And that didn't do anything, really. Let's drop in Eris, which is... Wow, that is actually pretty comparable to Pluto. So this might actually make a big difference. Let's go ahead and just drop it in. And there it goes. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, Pluto is shooting up in radius. The density is going down quite a bit because the radius is going up. Oh wow, it just keeps going. Okay, let's go ahead and drop in Makey Makey, which is an ice world, as you can see. And let's just drop it right in. Oh wow, it's just shooting up even more. That was a pretty big world. So, once again, Pluto's original radius was 1186. 1585, possibly? Probably about 1590. Okay, so let's go ahead and drop in Haumea. Which, again, looks like a rather ice-covered world. Let's do this. Let's change our view, the lighting, to flashlight. That way we can actually see the worlds properly. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and drop in Haumea. And there it goes. I think it's going to stabilize around 1650 if I were to make a guess. Probably 1640. Okay, so now let's just drop in our comments. One Halley's Comet, One Swift Turtle? Swift Tuttle. Apophis? Is that what that says? Apophis? Apophis? Just go ahead and drop that in. And 2014 RC. I doubt those asteroids made very much of a difference. So here is Pluto after all these dwarf planets that are available in the game have collided with it. So let's just compare it to some of our own planets. So here's our moon, which is still bigger than even if all these dwarf planets collided. This is not all the dwarf planets in our system. These are just the ones that are available in the game. But yeah, as you can see, the moon is still actually bigger, which means the Earth is actually still quite a bit bigger. Times? No, that's quite a few times in size. So there's Earth in comparison to all of our dwarf planets just combined together. So that's just another example of how small these dwarf planets are. Now, the suggestion I get all the time is, what happens if we collide all the planets together? Well, I kind of already know what's going to happen. As you've seen there with Pluto, with all the dwarf planets colliding, it just stayed Pluto, which means our biggest planet, Jupiter, you're not really going to see a significant difference. If I drop Mercury in, not really much is going to happen. Venus, not much. We're just going to make spots in Jupiter with the terrestrial worlds. These are basically nothing in comparison to the mass of Jupiter. So there you go. There's all the terrestrial worlds collided into it, which Jupiter has a radius of, let's see, 69,811 after we collided all the terrestrial worlds with Jupiter, which originally had 69,911. So it's actually losing mass, or actually losing radius, because those are rocky worlds, which means it's actually increasing its density. It has a higher gravity in the center, pulling all that hydrogen towards the center of the planet a little bit more. So we're just increasing the density of its atmosphere. So the radius went down, but I do believe the mass should have increased, which, as you can see there up in the corner, Jupiter's mass is now 1.01 Jupiters, so it actually grew a little bit in mass, but not any significant margin. The ones that will make a difference are our gas giants, so let's go ahead and throw Pluto in there, because Pluto is a planet. Okay, now let's go ahead and throw in Neptune, which, as you can see, is actually not that big of a gas giant in comparison to Jupiter, but it should make at least some difference. There we go. That made more of a difference than all of our planets combined. As you can see, the radius is actually still going down, as the density should be increasing, possibly. Yes, it is. So let's go ahead and drop in Uranus, which I do believe is slightly bigger than Neptune, if I'm right. Yeah, it's slightly bigger than Neptune, but it has a lower mass. So let's go ahead and just drop it in. As you see, we pushed Jupiter a little bit with that one, so let's go ahead and push it the other way with Uranus. So the radius is still going down as the density kind of increases, because Neptune and Uranus have pretty high densities, but one that does not have a high density is Saturn, which, as you can see, is almost as big as Jupiter. So let's go ahead and drop Saturn in. This is what should make the biggest difference. Oh, wow. We probably lost a lot of it out into space. But if I speed up time, some of it might still land in there. But a lot of it probably achieved escape velocity and is probably going to go in orbit around Jupiter or just be lost in space forever. See what the mass of Jupiter is now. Only 1.33, but as you can see, it did stay Jupiter in name. And once it cools down, which will give it a little bit to do so, let's speed up the game. Okay, I'm going to manually cool this down because it doesn't seem to want to cool down. So there we go. Let's go ahead and slow down time. The new face of Jupiter. It's slightly different. Like if we get our actual Jupiter up here, it changed quite a bit. The cloud layer looks a lot different. But it still has its huge storm, as you can see there. And for the sake of it, let's drop in Planet 9. And there goes Planet 9. Which heated it back up again. But we don't want it to heat up, so let's cool it back down again. And there you go. That is what happens if we collide all the dwarf planets into each other and all of the larger planets. But for the sake of it, let's do this without the gas giants. Let's drop in Mars, Mercury, Venus, and Earth. So let's drop Earth here. And let's just see what happens to poor Earth if all of our terrestrial worlds just collided into it. So there's Mercury. It's getting too hot. Now Venus, this one might totally ruin Earth because of its carbon dioxide. So here it goes. Ooh, that's probably not good for Earth. And now Mars. And Pluto, because it's still a planet. Okay. So here we go. Everything has collided into Earth. We've had some of the water evaporate away. But let's go ahead and drop the surface temperature down to 0. Now Venus is almost the size of Earth. So I feel like that's going to have a major effect on the atmosphere. So as it cools down, here comes the atmosphere and the water. And no, that actually didn't have as much of an effect on the atmosphere as I thought. The oceans are returning, and I think that's the levels that they returned at. So as you can see there, it looks like we are left with a lot less water than we originally had, because that all evaporated out into space in these little particles here. Oh wow, that's a lot of particles. And let's compare it to the original size of Earth. The mass is 1.98 because Venus was such a bigger mass, or such a large mass. Oops. Well, I just dropped Earth into it. But you got a size comparison there. I didn't mean to click. I wish there was an undo button in this game, but there isn't. But, yeah. As you can see, I'll just drop this back down to 1.98. And here is the size of Earth for comparison to our new Earth. And we're evaporating more of the water away. But oh well. So yeah, there you go. That is what happens if you collide all these planets together. Anyways, if you guys like this video, please leave it a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, please do subscribe. It really does help. And I will see you guys in the next one.